Imagine it's noon on a perfectly normal Saturday. Like you have this massive fleet of digital workers.
Right.
135,000 of them, to be exact. All just humming along, crunching code, building software, executing their jobs.
Doing what they do best.
Yeah, exactly. And then simultaneously, they all just hit a brick wall. Like completely cut off.
Just a total dead stop.
Right. And at the exact same time, you've got the tech world's absolute top performers like elite software engineers suddenly needing prescription sleep medication just to survive their new daily workflows.
I mean, it sounds like the setup for some kind of dystopian sci-fi thriller.
It really does.
But that's actually the reality of what just happened in the software industry. We're looking at a massive high-speed collision between a deeply broken business model and, well, human psychology.
It's wild. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Before we jump into why the servers literally melted down and why coders are suddenly forgetting how to sleep, let's set the stage for you.
Yeah, let's get some context.
So, just to be upfront, we are an AI-generated duo, and this is a special audio edition created for the DROIDS newsletter, which is written by Diana Wolf-Torres.
It's a great publication.
It really is. Our mission today is to explore the abrupt end of the subsidized AI buffet and uncover the immense psychological toll that this new agentic AI is taking on its most hardcore power users.
Yeah, the heavy hitters.
Right. And even if you don't write a single line of code yourself, stick around, because this is a crystal clear window into the future of how every single one of us is going to interact with autonomous AI.
Absolutely, because we're currently moving from AI as just a tool-like, something you occasionally consult, to AI as an autonomous agent that acts entirely on your behalf.
It's doing the driving.
Exactly. And the underlying infrastructure simply wasn't built to handle that shift.
So according to the reporting from Axios AI Plus and, the DROIDS newsletter, Anthropic, which is obviously one of the major AI labs, abruptly blocked their Claude Pro and Max subscribers.
Without much warning, yeah.
Right. Blocked them from using their flat rate $20 a month plans to power third-party autonomous agent frameworks.
And OpenClaw is the prime example here.
Right. Tell us about OpenClaw.
So it's an open source framework that lets you set up an AI agent and essentially tell it to run continuously.
Like on an endless loop.
Exactly. It takes actions, writes code, tests that code, reads the error messages, and then tries again. All without you having to sit there and manually prompt it every single step of the way.
Which sounds amazing until you look at the scale of the chaos this weekend. It was wild. Roughly 60% of the 135,000 plus active OpenClaw instances were running on these simple consumer subscription credits.
Which is a huge number.
Right. The best way I can visualize this is like a gym membership. It's like paying $20 a month for your local neighborhood gym.
Which is a great deal.
It's a fantastic deal if you pop in for an hour a day to lift weights. But these power users were essentially moving their entire house inside the gym.
Just living there.
Literally living there and running on all the treadmills 24/7. So how bad was the math really getting for Anthropic behind the scenes?
Well, the math was completely unsustainable. That $20 subscription was meticulously priced for human use.
Because humans have biological limits.
Right. We type, we pause to read the output, we, go get a cup of coffee, we sleep.
Hopefully.
Right, hopefully.
Yeah.
And that natural friction naturally limits how much server compute we can realistically consume in a given day.
Yeah.
But open source agents, they don't pause.
They just keep growing.
They never stop.
Right.
But worse than that, and this is the real kicker, they completely bypass the efficiency mechanisms built into the cloud infrastructure, specifically something called prompt caching.
Okay, wait, break that down for me, because this seems to be the core technical reason for the block, right? How does prompt caching actually work, and why do agents just totally break it?
Sure. So think of an AI's context window as its short-term memory for a specific conversation. When you, a human, are chatting with an AI, the system caches or temporarily saves that short-term memory. So if you ask a follow-up question, the AI doesn't have to reread the entire 1,000-word conversation from scratch.
Oh, I see.
Right. It just retrieves the cached memory and processes your new question. That saves Anthropic a massive amount of computing power.
That makes total sense. It's like having a conversation with a coworker. You don't have to remind them of your name, your job title, and what you were talking about 5 minutes ago every single time you open your mouth.
Exactly. That would be exhausting.
Yeah.
Now, imagine what happens when an agent takes over. Because they are constantly looping, taking actions, getting error messages, rewriting code, and feeding the results back into themselves, they are constantly rewriting their own short-term memory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The system can't cache the memory because the memory is changing every few seconds.
Wait. So if I tell an agent to, fix a bug, it doesn't just send the phrase fix the bug to the server.
Not at all.
It sends its entire system instructions, everything it just tried, the new error code, and its next planned step. Every single time it loops.
Every single time. They're firing massive, complex prompts relentlessly to keep their context window updated with their latest actions.
That sounds incredibly expensive.
It is. A single heavy session running one of these agents without caching could consume infrastructure that would normally cost between $1,000 and $5,000.
Wait, a day?
Yes, for just 1 day of use on standard API rates.
$1,000 to $5,000 a day. And they were paying a flat $20 a month.
That is the size of the subsidy Anthropic was absorbing on every heavy user.
That is insane.
Yeah, Boris Cherny, he's Anthropic's head of Claude Code. He made it very clear. The consumer subscriptions were simply not built for the usage patterns of these third-party tools.
Right.
Compute is a finite physical resource. It requires servers, electricity, cooling. This heavy agent usage was literally threatening to reduce server availability for everyday human users.
Just normal people.
Yeah, people who just wanted to summarize a document or write an email.
You can't keep the gym open if 100 people are using all the electricity for a month and only paying a $20 entry fee.
Exactly.
But to really understand why these servers were being pushed to the absolute limit, we have to look at the human side of the screen. Why were these users running these agents so aggressively?
Well, the extreme behavior of the power user is perfectly encapsulated by what's being called the Karpathy problem.
Oh, yeah. So Andrej Karpathy is a massive name in the tech space. Just for some context for you, he's a co-founder of OpenAI, and he's actually the guy who coined the term vibe coding.
Yep, a very influential guy.
Very. And in January, he wrote this massive post that got viewed over 7.6 million times. He detailed a terrifyingly fast shift in his own workflow. Over just a few weeks, his ratio of manually writing code to letting AI write the code went from 80-20 to 0-100.
Yeah, by December, he had stopped typing code entirely.
0 lines. But here's where I need to push back a little because something isn't adding up.
What do you mean?
Well, the entire promise of AI, the whole reason companies are spending billions on it is that it's going to save us time, right? It's supposed to make us vastly more efficient.
Right.
So if the agents are doing 100% of the coding, why does Karpathy report working 16-hour days?
That is the paradox.
He's spending all his time just issuing commands to these agent swarms, and he even says he gets extremely nervous when his monthly usage limits run low. That doesn't sound like time saved at all.
It's not. It's a profound psychological shift, and it all comes down to the illusion of zero marginal cost.
Okay, unpack that.
Diana Wolf-Torres points this out brilliantly in the DROIDS newsletter. She writes, agent dependence forms fast and feels free.
Feels free.
Yeah. When you remove the friction of physically typing out code, the bottleneck doesn't just disappear. It just shifts to a different part of the process.
So it shifts from the creation phase to the management phase.
Exactly. Handing an AI one more task feels like it costs you nothing. You just type a single sentence like, build this new feature, right?
But behind the scenes, as we discussed, you are spinning up massive compute power. And more importantly for the human, you are exponentially increasing the volume of output you have to review, manage, and orchestrate.
Oh, wow.
You're no longer a solitary builder. You are suddenly the manager of 1,000 frantic, hyperactive digital interns who work at the speed of light.
Okay, so because it's incredibly easy to ask for things, you ask for a mountain of things.
Yes.
And then you have to sit there and manually sort through the mountain. Reviewing code takes a completely different type of cognitive energy than writing it, doesn't it?
100%. When you write code manually, you know how it works because you built it step by step.
Right. You understand the logic.
But when an AI drops 1,000 lines of code on your screen in 10 seconds, you have to reverse engineer its logic to make sure it didn't use a deprecated library or, make a catastrophic mistake.
Which explains the 16-hour days. Karpathy isn't typing. He's furiously trying to read and manage the tsunami of code he just asked for. Exactly. Multiply that dynamic by thousands of builders who quietly restructured their entire professional lives around a $20 a month plan. And it's no wonder the servers melted down.
Seriously.
People got a taste of infinite leverage, and they completely rewired their habits around it.
It's crazy. Getting exactly what you asked for, like infinite code, seems to be ruining people's lives. The Axios AI Plus reporting calls this a growing pathology among top developers.
It's getting serious.
The language they use in the sources is striking. We aren't just talking about being tired or mildly burnt out. Gary Tan, the CEO of Y Combinator, stayed up 19 hours straight grinding with these agentic coding tools.
19 hours.
And he flat out called the experience cyberpsychosis.
He warned that it is deeply unhealthy. And to understand the underlying mechanics of why this is happening to our brains, we need to look at how human cognition actually handles complex information.
Right, what's happening under the hood.
Simon Willison, who's a developer with 25 years of pre-AI coding experience. He uses a great concept from computer science to explain it. He calls it the stack.
He says agentic coding is easily popping that stack. What does that actually mean from a neurological standpoint?
So in computing, a stack is a temporary memory space where you store active information. Human working memory functions very similarly.
Okay.
There is a strict biological limit on how much complex architecture, how many variables, and how much intricate logic you can hold in your head at one time.
Right. Our brains have RAM limits, too.
Exactly. When you are writing code manually, the physical pace of your typing gives your brain time to process. It allows your neurons to structure the logic and build a mental model piece by piece.
So the friction of typing is actually a feature, not a bug. It paces the brain.
That's a great way to put it. But when an autonomous agent is vomiting hundreds of lines of complex code at you every few seconds, that natural pacing vanishes entirely.
It's just gone.
Your brain's short-term memory is instantly overwhelmed. You are trying to hold too many variables in your head at once to review the AI's work, and the cognitive stack pops. You crash.
It sounds like trying to drink from a fire hose, but the fire hose is shooting pure logic puzzles.
Yes.
And the scary part is, people can't seem to turn the fire hose off. The sources highlight a massive addiction element taking hold here. Quentin Rousseau, he's the CTO of Rootly, literally needed a doctor to prescribe sleep medication just to shut his brain off at night after he switched his workflow to agentic coding.
Yeah, that's just wild. And Armin Ronicher, another software developer, noted that using these agents feels incredibly good in the moment.
Really?
Yeah, they barely sleep, and they build amazing things at record speed. It heavily mimics the psychology of gambling.
See, I want to contrast this with the history of the tech industry, because serious coders have always pulled all-nighters, right? Like Elon Musk and his early teams are famous for sleeping under their desks on factory floors to meet insane deadlines. But the difference is, at least they slept. They hit a physical wall, they collapsed, they rested. This new era sounds less like a software tool and more like an intellectual slot machine. Are we fundamentally misusing this technology by trying to sprint a marathon?
I think so. A slot machine is carefully designed to remove all friction between pulls of the lever to keep you in the zone.
Oh, that makes sense.
It hacks your dopamine system with continuous variable rewards.
Yeah.
Agentic AI is doing the exact same thing for intellectual work.
Wow.
You get an immediate hit of dopamine when the agent successfully solves a problem, which prompts you to immediately give it another harder task. Humans simply aren't built for a continuous friction-free feedback loop of creation.
We need breaks.
Exactly. Without the natural built-in pauses of manual typing, waiting for a program to compile, or just thinking through a problem step by step, the human brain is redlining.
So the engine is running at maximum RPMs with absolutely no cooling system, and they resort to sleep meds just to force a biological shutdown.
This is the only way they can stop.
You have a situation where the servers are melting down, costing Anthropic thousands of dollars a day per user, and the users themselves are having psychological breakdowns. Something had to give. Anthropic shutting off the $20 buffet wasn't just a server fix. It forced the whole industry to look in the mirror.
Yeah, but the open source community was definitely not happy when Anthropic dropped the hammer. Peter Steinberger, the creator of OpenClaw, immediately pushed back.
The timing of this is practically a tech soap opera, honestly.
It really is.
Steinberger was actually hired by Sam Altman at OpenAI on February 14th to specifically drive the next generation of personal agents. Weeks later, Anthropic locks his open source tool out of their consumer subscription tier.
Right. And Steinberger managed to negotiate a 1-week delay, but he was highly critical of the move.
What did he say?
He accused Anthropic of a classic bait and switch. first copying popular features from open source into their closed ecosystem, and then locking the open source tools out to stifle competition.
But wait, if Anthropic is blocking open source tools, aren't they alienating the exact community of developers that helped build this ecosystem in the first place? It feels a little heavy-handed.
It would feel that way, except for a fascinating detail provided by Boris Cherny, Anthropic's head of Claude Code.
Oh, right. What did he point out?
He pointed out that he personally submitted pull requests to OpenClaw's repository. Anthropic's own engineers were actively trying to help the open source tool run more efficiently on their network by improving its cache efficiency.
Wait, they were literally trying to optimize the open source code so they wouldn't have to ban it.
Exactly. It proves this wasn't just some malicious, anti-competitive move by Anthropic to crush an open source rival. They literally just couldn't foot the bill anymore.
The money simply ran out.
Right. So they are now forcing API billing for these agentic tools. If you want to run an agent, you pay for the exact amount of compute you use, not a flat $20 fee.
Which is going to be a rude awakening for a lot of people.
Oh, definitely. To ease the transition, they're offering a one-time credit, 30% off extra usage bundles, or full refunds to users who just want to walk away.
So is this just a localized spat between open source creators and one specific AI lab? Or is this a sign that the entire AI gold rush is hitting a massive financial wall?
It's undoubtedly an industry-wide recalibration. Google ran the exact same play just a month earlier in February.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they blocked a tool called Gemini CLI that was similarly piggybacking on their consumer subscriptions.
Yeah.
What we're seeing is a broader strategic divide in the AI world, particularly between the philosophies of OpenAI and Anthropic.
Break down that divide for me. Like, how are their playbooks different?
On one side, you have the OpenAI mindset, led by Sam Altman. Their philosophy is essentially infinite growth.
Right.
It's the core belief that they can always raise more capital to support scaling compute. If the agents demand more power, they'll just build more data centers and figure out the unit economics later.
The classic Silicon Valley build it and the money will follow approach.
Exactly. Contrast that with Anthropic. As the Axios reporting notes, Anthropic is pitching Wall Street on a more capital-efficient, financially disciplined operation.
They want to look like the responsible adults in the room.
Right. They're focused on efficiency in how they train and run their models. They recognize that the massive tab for agentic AI was always going to come due. They just decided they were going to stop quietly paying it for their power users.
The era of subsidized agent compute inside a consumer subscription is closing across the board. The $20 all-you-can-eat ride is over, and it's forcing the market to finally find the true price of this technology.
Which is a necessary growing pain for the industry, honestly.
Yeah. Well, all this talk of cyberpsychosis and multi-$1,000 server bills is heavy. But nestled in the Axios AI Plus source material was a little palate cleanser that I absolutely loved, especially considering how infallible we sometimes think these models are.
Oh, the bracket.
Yes, they ran an NCAA Women's Hoops Bracket challenge.
It's a great reminder of the current limits of frontier models.
It really is. So the 2026 tournament was won by the UCLA Bruins. And in the Axios bracket, all the major AI models, Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini incorrectly picked UConn to win.
All of them missed it.
All of them. Meanwhile, the human users, the actual people working at Axios, correctly picked UCLA.
For all their ability to write complex code and run autonomous swarms, the most advanced models on Earth still can't predict March Madness better than a human gut feeling.
Sometimes you just have to trust human instinct.
You really do.
So to bring this all together for you, the listener, the core takeaway from all these sources is that the Wild West of the subsidized AI agent is over. As the technology gets faster and more capable, the underlying business models and our own human brains are becoming the ultimate bottlenecks.
Yep.
You can't run a $1,000 a day server load on a $20 subscription, and you definitely can't run a human brain for 19 hours straight on an endless loop of generative code.
The hard limits of cloud infrastructure and the biological limits of human cognition are colliding at the exact same time.
Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder. We are already seeing tech's highest performers redlining their brains, suffering from cyberpsychosis, and requiring prescription sleep medication just to manage these early, relatively primitive AI agents.
Right.
So what happens to our sanity when these agents get smart enough to start managing other agents?
That is the multi-trillion-dollar question we'll have to face next.
Keep that in mind the next time your digital coworker offers to take a few tasks off your plate. Catch you on the next deep dive.